Okay, so I'm going to take the tape off the end of this firearm. If I can get it off of here, okay. And I'm all dressed in crummy clothes. And I'm going to just tip this over and see if anything just wants to come sliding out of there. This foaming product is pretty good. It usually stays pretty well. Now this particular firearm is in 7mm. Sorry, it's in 7mm Mauser. So I'm gonna go get my 7mm cleaning apparatus here, and we'll see what comes out of it. Okay, I'm trying to do this so you can see it. So this is not an easy thing to do. Yeah, that's good. Just to give you an idea of the gook that's going to come out of there, how ugly it is. So basically, I'm going to sit here and rod this gun for probably a good 10 minutes or so to clean it out. Basically, I'm just running the bronze brush back and forth inside the barrel to dislodge all the crud and gunk that's in there, and you don't need to listen to me do that the whole time, so we're just fast forwarding through this. I've been through it 20 times, so what I'm going to do now is clean the rod off, clean the gook off the rod. You can see that, how filthy that is. Pretty bad. There's a lot of junk in there. And I'm going to drive a mop through there, and we'll see if we got any other stuff. If I had a squeegee, I'd use a squeegee, but I don't have a squeegee, so I'll try a mop and see how well we are able to get some of the crud out of that. It's not going to work. While it'll take a 32 brush, it will not take a 32 mop. It's too big. So I will go and use a regular loop and grab a patch and put a patch through it, or a few patches through it. So now we're going to run a series of dry patches through the gun and get most of the rest of the crud out of it. Nothing terribly exciting here. We just, run a patch through, take it off, put on a fresh dry patch, run another patch through, run another dry patch, and so on and so forth. If it wasn't crudded up so bad, I might use a bore snake, but there's no sense ruining a bore snake with the amount of junk that's inside this barrel. Well, it's starting to come out fairly clean, as you can hopefully see. It's really not too ugly. Now it's time to take a quick look at the bore light. Oh yeah, baby. So I'm gonna try to find a way for you to see this. So here is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this very well. Yeah, it's kind of bright. Pull it down a little further. Let me offset the light a little bit so it's not quite so bright and shiny in there. Can't see it. Try my other light. I've got another light that's a little softer. This is very difficult to do, trying to hold the gun at the same time. There. So I think you can see that's actually not too bad. You know, it's really not too terribly cruddy in there. So we're doing a good job getting that stuff out of there, considering how old this gun is. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe down the action parts and also the some of the wood here, and then I'm going to, I think I'm going to try taking this apart to see if I can get underneath here, get under the handguard, and see what we're looking at as far as the how the rest of this is looking. So let me set the camera up differently, and I'll go to my webcam and we'll try that. Okay, we're going to go to the next step of this rolling block, and what we're going to do is start taking it apart. I've already taken the liberty of starting this. Before we do it, though, I did want to show you this this brush that we're using. This is a standard brass brush, and I want you to see just how absolutely filthy this thing is. I mean, it looks like plastic in there, and that's like grease. You can see it here on this patch. That's the gook that we pulled out of that bore after we let it set. It actually ended up setting like 2 days before I actually started rotting them out. So it's pretty horrible. And just to give you a feel for just how filthy that thing was, and I know it was kind of hard to see in the other part of the video here, but it really was pretty crummy. So that all things being said, so in order to take this apart, we've got several barrel bands. Here's the front barrel band, which I've already removed. I want to mention a couple things. First of all, this barrel band has a sort of unique way of going on. There's actually a bolt that's hollow that goes all the way across, and the sling ring actually goes through it. So you actually have to use a wrench to get the thing on and off. It's a real pain. The other thing is that these barrel bands on this gun are actually tapered. They only go on correctly one way. So if you look at this band, you'll see it has a U printed on it, and that U stands for up. And you should be able to read that U. I'll use the second one for the second barrel band. You should be able to read it properly when the gun is sitting on its muzzle. So if I was putting this barrel band back on, then it would be it would go on like this. If I slipped it over the front of the gun, and that way it would be readable when the gun was standing up on its muzzle. So that's what the U stands for. A lot of people think they're manufacturer's marks. They're not. It's a guide to let you know, because this is a tapered band, to have it go in the right way. So that first one I had already removed. Now we're going to go to the second one, but I want to point something else out. Now this is a very old gun, and this is the danger if you're going to try to take one of these apart. So this spring, there's supposed to be a pin here in this spring, and this spring is supposed to lock this barrel band. And when I was looking at the band, I don't know if you can see it, but I can push on the wrong side of the spring, and the spring's starting to come up. And if you lift it up slightly, you will see that the pin portion of the barrel band is rusted, and it's almost rusted all the way off. So there's the spring, and obviously there's nothing I can do about that. Well, I suppose I could putty the wood and try to bring it back, but that's the danger when you strip one of these down. That's why if you were just doing this for your collection and you weren't really intending on shooting it, you might want to reconsider stripping the gun down. So we're going to use our hollow ground screwdrivers now, and we're going to remove the rear barrel band, and they come right off. The finish of the wood parts is very tacky to the touch, so it's pretty cruddy. We'll slide that off the end of the barrel, put that down. I have a tendency to lay the parts out in the order they came out, because I'm not very bright and I don't remember how to put them all back on. Now here's another dangerous spot. Let me get this where you can, I gotta move my keyboard, hold on. There you go. So here's the handguard, right? And the handguard is loose, but we have to remember that this handguard is going to have to come forward in order to come out. We don't want to lift it too hard before we start taking it out. And obviously it looks like we've got a little bit of problems because the sight's in the way. So we're going to move the sight, move it forward, and see if we can, I don't know if I can get this off of here or not. Let me, so we'll slide the slight ladder up. Now we can rotate it and bring it up through. So with this kind of stuff, the most important thing, go slow, don't push. And now we're finding what I was afraid we were going to find. You see the pitting here on the barrel. So whether we'll be able to shoot this or not is another question. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to take this apart, so I could see what was going on. So now we can take the lower part of the stock off. Again, we're going to move it forward where it latches up. We can take it off and set it to the side. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. You see there's rust under here, and I'm going to want to clean some of that rust off as best I can. But I would, the level of pitting on the top of the barrel is pretty bad. Even though the bore is good, I'm not really sure if I would be shooting, really be able to shoot this or not. So I may end up having to take this to a gunsmith to find out. There apparently is this must be a recoil lug here that's screwed in here. Again, this has rust on it. I'm not really sure if it would be a good idea to try to get that off of there, if it would even come back on again. So in addition to the screw, there's a pin here, and if you took it off, I'm not sure you'd be able to get it back on again. But this is exactly why, when you get a gun like this and you're thinking you might want to shoot it, really important that you take it apart and see what's hanging around under there. Okay, so the last thing I think will be this tang screw. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. I don't always remember to watch for that stuff. So we're going to position that right in the center, pull the tang screw off. For my purposes, I was just looking for an example of the action. So if I don't actually get a chance to shoot this, I'm not going to be really upset, though I do really prefer to shoot all of my guns. And I'm not sure if I've got everything out of here that I need to get out of here yet. And I want to be kind of careful removing some of this other stuff. I think what I'm going to have to do next is take the rear plate off and see if there's anything exciting, like a through bolt. I know you can't see that. I'm running out of area here to do this with. Maybe if I come up a little bit. Yeah, I'll come up a little bit. You can see a little better. Pop the screws off of here, and this is, again, all this stuff is very loosey-goosey. I'm not going to be able to screw these on real tight because this is really old wood, and ooh, that was on a little tight. Well, I can see what I need to see looking underneath there. Nope, there's no. I was looking to see if there's a through screw. I think it's a little older firearm. Well, actually, I'll leave that off. It's a little older firearm than what I'm used to. I'm going to step up to a bigger driver tip here, just so I can get as much as I can on that screw without boogering it up. It's already boogered up pretty badly, and I don't want to booger it up any worse than it is. So we'll take another crack at it with a little bit larger head. Again, take your time. Get centered up real good on the screws. I'm still slipping off a little bit because it was boogered up previously. Really not much I can do about that. Let me try the big boy. sucker's really on there. But again, take your time. You know, try not. The worst thing you can do is break it. So you want to just take it easy. I'm only going between an eighth and a quarter of a turn at a pop, so I can, you know, really control this well. And I think this screw is actually, of course, this is rusted as well. So you can see this screw is rusted as well. See in this area here, it's pretty deformed. So, and of course, the back of the butt plate is, you know, the front of it doesn't look bad, right? The outside, but the inside is all screwed up. I wonder if this, you know, with the amount of rust that's out here, I wonder if this firearm was left to the elements at what time or another and not taken apart and re-cleaned. So the only thing I have left is the separating the rear stock. I do have the tang screw out, but I gotta believe one of these other screws is holding this in here. It might not. You know, you never know. Usually it's more than one screw that holds this stuff together. So I'm pretty sure this is the screw for the trigger itself. So I don't want to, you know, I don't want to just arbitrarily start taking screws off. So I think what I'm going to do is go to my friend the internet and see if there's a disassembly video on a Type 5 and see if I've missed anything. So I'm, you know, again, I don't want to force things, and I'm a little concerned about the head of this blind bolt right here, because it doesn't show up in this mess anywhere, and this tang is not separate. This tang is all part of this receiver, so it's not like I could lift the tang out and then get at this stuff. So I assume there's more that needs to come out of here, and someone's been in here before, because these screws are buggered up pretty good, and we'll try real hard to preserve them, but they are buggered up pretty bad. So let me run off to the internet and or Numeric or those guys and see if there's anything in here that would give me some clues as to how to get this rear stock off of this action. Okay, there seems to be a little bit of discussion on the web as to the proper way to do this, but I'm going to put together 2 or 3 of the ones that I saw and try to come up with the right way to do this. So the one I saw that made the most sense, to me anyway, says to bring the trigger back, cock the hammer, sorry, not the trigger, remove the pivot pins. These are the pivot pins, the pivot for the rolling block and the pivot for the hammer. It says remove the retainer cross piece and screw, so we're going to take that out. And it says to tap out, allow the breech block to move freely. Gently tap out the breech block pivot pin, and I'm not going to tap it out, I'm just pushing it out, and I'm actually able to do that while I'm working the breech block. Okay, so that's out of there, and it says wiggle out the breech block, and it says it will come right out, and come out so easily you will be amazed. So I am I'm not amazed. Now this may be because of the style of what's the expression? Extractor that's being used here. So, but I cannot make I can't make this come out, and I don't see how it could come out, to be honest with you, past this other guy. I would say there's something else going on here. I think there's another screw that has to come out. So I'm going to take this other screw out. It looks like, yeah, that's what it is. This screw is holding the extractor. So let's take that out. This is probably instructions for an older one. So we'll take out the screw. Now we can pop this right out, and that's marvelous. So now you have your extractor. Here's your extractor and your block. So that's all wonderful. I hope you can see this. I'm actually not. Yeah, I guess you can. I'm not actually paying attention to the camera because I'm using this guy. So then it says, hold the hammer, let it go all the way forward, which totally takes off the pressure. You can see it's flapping around. It totally takes the pressure off. And now you can remove the pivot pin for the hammer. And we'll take that out. So there's the hammer pivot pin. And remove the hammer. It will fall out, which it did. So there's the hammer. So we have pin, screw. I'm just setting this stuff again in the proper order. This is good because it'll give me a chance to detail clean this mechanism. Okay, now remove the tang screw, which I did already, and the buttstock, but I still don't see how the buttstock would come off of here. Receiver cross bolts, so we'll take out the receiver cross bolts and see if that helps at all. So first was this. Those two guys, that and that guy. I'm not real surprised that these bolts are coming out so easy because it was obvious to me that somebody had been inside the firearm before me. So take out the two cross bolts. Need a little bit larger screwdriver on this one. Ooh, that one doesn't want to come out. There she goes. And what I should be able to do is take out the lower receiver and trigger group. The lower receiver trigger group. At least that's what they call it. Wow. I gotta believe something's gonna go spring on this because this is really not easy. I think I'm going to need to do is push in with a punch at the same time I'm unscrewing this. Actually, I probably can tap it right out. I'm a little concerned because it's coming out so hard that I'm up against some spring pressure here. Okay. Now theoretically, I should be able to get this assembly. That's it. So once I lifted this away, I could get the rear off. So apparently this slides down in here like this, and then when this is down, it keeps it from lifting out. There's a dovetail. Let me show you. There's a dovetail here. Let me go back to the, so I can see what I'm filming. So yeah, there's a dovetail here at the end of this, and it dovetails down into this, and that's why I wasn't able to remove it. So again, always a good idea not to force it. But now we have the action totally apart. Tell you, it's too bad. The action on this is actually in pretty nice shape. There's very little rust in here. Looks very nice. But what I'll do now is I will start working on cleaning this up. You know, spraying it down liberally with a gun cleaner, and then giving it probably a brass brush, maybe a 4-aught steel wool, you know, and oil to try to get some of these parts off. There are part numbers stamped in this, serial numbers, I hope. 48 something 3. I wonder if that's the same. Well, I don't have any serial numbers anywhere else, so I wonder if there's some other serial numbers floating around out here. But anyway, we got it all apart, and now what I'm going to do is go to work cleaning this up. I'm going to primarily use gun scrubber from Birchwood KC. I may end up using a little ballistol and working it down into the rusty spots here. I will be using a brass brush as well as some fine steel wool to try to clean this up a little bit. Again, I don't want to remove the patina, I just want to remove the rust and any other gunk that's floating around. And there's no, I don't think you're terribly interested in that stuff, so that's what we will, that's what I'm going to be doing next. And when I go to start putting it back together, or if I hear anything particularly interesting, I'll set it back up again. So basically we're all done cleaning up the internals in the gun and put it all back together. You can't really see the internals obviously, and this video is going long enough as it is, but you can see the stock has a little bit better sheen to it now. It's not all tacky and sticky like it was before, so that's a lot better. The mechanism of the gun itself cleaned up very nice. I do have obviously still the issue of the pitting that's underneath the forestock here, the I'm sorry, the handguard, but you know, we'll have to deal with that when we deal with it. The internal mechanisms of the gun cleaned up very nicely. Looks pretty good, and I'll append a piece of video in just a second with the try to give you a feel for what the bore looks like. It's very difficult to do because I can't get the camera to focus down inside the bore. You know, it'll focus on the end of the gun, but it won't focus on the bore farther up. But it came out fairly well. I'm pretty happy with it. I may still end up shooting it, so we'll see what happens. But that's basically how she cleaned up, and pretty happy with it. So another good find at Wanamaker's, and it cleaned up real nice. And let me show you the bore. Okay, so we'll give this a try, and we'll see if you can see some of the lands in the bore. You can see, I think, you can see that the lands in this bore are in actually pretty good shape. And I realize that the light, you know, it's tough to do this with a camera that's not really meant to be used as a bore scope. But you can see that it really cleaned up very nicely. So the bore on this gun is actually very clean, and the lands are very crisp. So again, really feel pretty good about this overall, other than the pitting problem on the outside of the barrel up under the handguard. I think we got a winner here, a good example of a Remington Rolling block. Thanks a lot for watching. I know this was kind of a long one. Really appreciate everybody hanging with me on this one. Move this around a little bit. And again, thanks a lot, and have a great afternoon.